Hey there, RosterWatch Nation. Byron here, back on site at Bucs training camp and joint practices with the Tennessee Titans today, scouting some intel for your fantasy football drafts and your fantasy football teams this year. I guess let's start with the Titans. You know, Cam Ward, sort of what you'd expect from a rookie, definitely flashes some traits and characteristics that get you sort of excited about his future. He looks competent. He looks comfortable. He's got a live arm. It's not the strongest arm I've ever seen, but he's definitely willing to put it into some tight spaces. So I like what I saw there in terms of his comfort level. He did make a few mistakes on a couple of pretty bad interceptions. I think they were more timing related than accuracy, although, you know, oftentimes those two traits are sort of connected as he's kind of getting in rhythm here. Very clearly, the lead wide receiver is going to be Calvin Ridley. That said, it's unclear to me that this offense is going to really be that effective this season. And even though Ridley is pretty clearly the lead wide receiver on the depth chart and in the rotations, I'm not super excited about what I saw today. I see him more as a flex player. I'm just not sure that the consistency and the upside is really going to exist in this offense. And sort of the same goes for Tony Pollard. You know, it's what you'd expect. Tyjae Spears getting more involved as he matures as a young player. They definitely like Tyjae Spears down in the red zone and certainly in the passing game. I mean, Pollard's still the lead guy, but, you know, again, much like Ridley, I really only want to draft Tony Pollard as a flex player this year, just given the circumstances around this, you know, really young offense with a young leader at the quarterback position. I just don't know how many points are going to be scored. So, you know, I sort of leave thinking that the Titans certainly have an interesting prospect in Cam Ward that they can feel optimistic about, but he doesn't really look like an elite number one overall pick. Certainly a little bit smaller in person than some of these other top guys. And just generally speaking, I'm not sure this offense is going to be that great this year. So, you know, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, those are the guys we're interested in, but we're interested in them really only as flex players. Now, when you turn to the Bucs side of the ball today, it's still Mike Evans, just all Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, the whispers are, they still don't know when he'll be back, but it sounds like they're sort of aiming for a week 4, week 5 return for Godwin. But in the meantime, I mean, it's all Mike Evans all day. He looks like the same player that we've always come to know and love. You know, I saw the same thing today that I saw last week when I was out here. Still a little bit more Rachaad White than you'd like to see if you're a Bucky Irving guy. I mean, we know that timeshares are popular in the NFL, and there's really nobody that just gets all the touches, or not very many people. So it's not really a huge negative, but we should remember that Rachaad White is going to eat into at least the theoretical upside of Bucky Irving a little bit this year in terms of the volume and also in the pass receiving game. As for the receivers, I don't really think Egbuka, the rookie, or Jalen McMillan are draftable players. McMillan finished the year really hot last year. I think it was like 7 touchdowns in the last 5 games of the season, and he certainly flashed a little bit more downfield, whereas Egbuka is more in that big slot Chris Godwin role right now, with Godwin out of camp. And sort of given his body type, I think he has the versatility to play everywhere, but that big slot role seems to be a nice fit right now for Egbuka. Seeing him do more of his damage on, you know, like screens and run after the catch type of stuff, which makes sense because the dude is built like a running back. You know, that said, the talk is that he's a versatile player. He can play inside and out, whereas McMillan is definitely a little more suited on the outside. So I'd say, you know, I saw more catches down the field out of McMillan. I do think there's a little bit of opportunity for both of those guys the first month of the season with Godwin out, but I'm really not sure either of them is draftable and more than just a spot play in your fantasy league, and certainly not bullish on them long-term over the season when Godwin returns. All right, RosterWatch Nation, until next time, keep grinding.